structural engineers on our staff to review that, and they'll all lose their licenses if they sign off on something that they shouldn't be.
I was just talking about the contract itself.
The contract itself, as long as it.
I'm hopeful that the door isn't completely closed on that. I mean, they may reconsider or walk back their decision. Could happen.
We're muddling a few different things, so let's make sure to suss these things out. So what my understanding is that Public Works has approved, the SCJ contract modification, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just proposing to make it clear that the structural.
Great. My question's over.
The contract references WashDOT doing the structural engineering.
And I would say,
wanted to ask if it was worth striking out that.
I don't think so, because that's what contract modifications are for. We're going to gather, we're solving a problem. We don't quite know the whole answer.
Yeah.
We don't know the whole problem yet. So
right. And then what Director Nucky was saying was he's hoping that WashDOT will walk back. We'll see. We're gonna. This whole project is all about Hail Marys, so we'll see.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions. One is the climate commitment deck, and I'm looking at you, Mayor, as well as you, City Engineer Lover. It is part of many projects that are on shaky ground because we don't know if it will fail or not. What Kitsap Transit is doing is publicizing, and I've mentioned this at least twice this year, is mentioning all the projects that we got money from, from climate commitment, and all of the projects that are on the shovel ready, shall we say, or on the way, that are also dependent on climate commitment, and simply send that out to everybody inside the city of Bremerton so they know what happens. If they want to, it doesn't have to be a political thing. It's just like, here's what happens if you vote against it. Kitsap Transit has determined that this is completely legal. It's just saying, here's where the money came from, here's where it went. And I'd really like to see that happen. My second point, and my final, is what is the feeling, and again, this one's entirely for you, Mayor. You're city engineer, you're off the hook. What does our lobbyist say about, I know Drew Hansen is supporting of this, but it is, and I hope it's okay to talk about elections in this context. It's, some people are concerned about their elections. Is it possible, is anything going to go terribly wrong if this isn't walked back until November 6th?
I don't know that this is something that they can answer. This is, it's an abstract date.
I don't quite understand.
Do you mean this contract or the
think-
whole Warren Avenue
I
Bridge?
think that our elected officials at higher levels than we will put pressure on the governor to say, hey, let's figure out your workload a little better and figure out how to design it yourself, as you have been promising for multiple years.
This is just conjecture, and we can't really ask people to put, not in this context, put pressure. If there's citizens.
No, I'm certainly not asking anybody to put pressure. I'm trying to find out if anything will go terribly wrong if that pressure doesn't yield fruit until November 6th.
So what I feel like you need from us is a head nod from council to move forward with WashDOT with doing the bids, right? And managing the consultant. Is that what you're kind of looking for in conjunction with this contract modification?
I think what I'm looking for is approval to move forward with SCJ's amendment. So I can get started with the civil design. And then in the meantime, on a parallel track, we sort out all the opportunities for us to nail down how we're going to get the structural design done. And I don't think we have a good idea for what it looks like just yet. So there's going to be further conversation
and
on that for sure.
And you'll be back to Public Works with those solutions or those ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we have a meeting next week.
we haven't
And
sat down with
It's actually,
WashDOT about
actually
this.
it's a week.
The following week.
But before we move on, I was going to call on you, Eric. He's been sitting so patient, drinking his water. I want to hear from Eric here.
So I don't have a problem. The agenda bill item in front of us, but intermixed in this was this talk about the letter the mayor received, or Shane received the email my question was, regarding WashDOT withdrawing from being structural engineers for this project. My question is, because we relied on this all during this project, they would do the structural design. Did we have anything in writing that said they would do it? And now
Yes,
Contract.
there is
we
a
have an actual contract.
Yep.
And
Right.
so I don't want to get too much into details, but to me, that sounds like a breach of contract that we're relying
Yeah.
on for services.
Yep.
So this could actually turn into an executive session, feel like we have.
agreed.
So I just want to know, we actually have a contract with WashDOT to do these services. And
It's fine.
and in layman's terms, I'm not an attorney, they're trying to breach that contract. That's where we're at.
And they want us to pay them for it.
The contract was attached to the letter. It's like 3 pages. So if you look at the
An
letter, scroll
attachment
down,
and,
it's not
And we
very
had a set
long.
amount that we were gonna pay for structural service.
It was, I think the
Yes.
contract was like 275 plus a 25.
Did we already give them payment? Did we already do the advanced
We've already
payment?
given them some.
Which I'm sure they return.
I don't think we
Right.
paid them yet. We,
Oh.
so the way the agreement's set up is that they have a chunk of money and then they just charge to it on their end. And I don't see how much they charge unless I ask for it. So I don't know at this point in time, so I would have to ask them that. But I don't think,
It
I don't,
comes through us for invoicing, right, eventually?
no, it doesn't. No, they set it up so
Oh, I
that it goes
see.
directly.
Because the money's coming from WashDOT.
It's coming from
It's
WashDOT.
allocated to them.
This was attached.
So I don't know how much. I don't think they've charged us very much at all,
Same thing.
honestly.
In
Because
Greg's
they haven't
letter.
done any work.
Weird.
All right, well, then the rest of this is to be determined. So, I'm under the assumption we got to hold them to their contract, they're doing signs.
Yeah.
And we-
We're gonna
There's so much to learn. We don't know if the bridge network is the same as the ferry system right now. We're gonna learn more. And if the bridges have been underfunded, under-maintained, you're inspected everything. We just have to sort through that. And then we're just gonna try to carve out our part.
All
I
right.
would like to say that I really appreciated what a great letter it was. That you
Mhm.
sent me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Really good.
Yeah.
Same
Good letter.
thing, yeah.
Thank
it was
you.
Really well done.
Go get them.
Consent?
Sure.
I don't have an
Yeah.
issue with the
Yeah.
actual contract.
Yeah, the
SJC,
contract
that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Just to Eric's point, the 2021 contract, yeah, it's a contract, but there's also no penalty stipulated for
Right.
like breaking it, but I agree, that's a question for legal, yeah.
There's no termination language in it either.
Right.
That was kind of interesting.
Because like
but-
this SCJ contract, I'll point out what's really nice is it gives the city the ability to break the contract if we want, but not the other way around. So it's in our favor, which is nice
If
language.
one party is relying on the other and continues, goes further down that road
Right.
and there's a breach.
Oh, I agree with you, yeah.
We're relying on those services for everything. Yeah, that's interesting.
So the only conversations we've had have been really email and a few short phone calls Shane's had. And one of the things that we really need to do is just get around a table and talk through, because, I understand the bridge office has their constraints and they just got a bunch of new projects and they can't hire engineers any faster than we can. And they're in their bubble and they're trying to figure out how they deliver their work. But they didn't really consider the big impact it had on this project. And so table and advocate a little bit. And I don't know where we're going to land, but we haven't done that yet. So.
All right. So I like this course of action. Y'all are going to get to it first. And then if you need our help with any kind of coordinated efforts, as it's been told before, then you tap us and we'll be there.
I guess we aren't washing our hands of WashDOT.
All right. So consent for this specific contract modification, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I keep getting cut off as I'm trying to go through my list.
Oh.
All right, yeah. The other thing I had was just to throw out the idea, if there's any way with the extra contingency we have in the construction fund, if there's any way to transfer that. I know it's probably a question for our state reps and budget down the road, but
Yeah, so we thought about that as well.
Okay.
And I talked to our local programs WashDOT engineer about that. As a matter of fact, it was yesterday, and asked him the question, hey, so right now, the way the construction funding is programmed is that we have $15 million that's assigned for the 25 to 27 biennium. And then we have the 10 of it, so it's overall it's 25 million for construction. So it's split up between 15 and 10, and then that 10 is the 27 to 29 biennium. The 25 to 27 biennium would have those funds available to us in July of next year. And so my question to WashDOT local programs was, hey, can we tap that funding? Is there strings to it, first of all? And can we tap it and pull it forward to start charging to it and then reimburse ourselves in July when it becomes available? So there's that conversation that's happening right now. I don't have an answer to that.
Correct. But you're on it. Nice.
But yeah. So I'll be sure to look back around when I do.
Okay.
Okay.
So like, can I get clarification because this is different? So one big thing we talked about a lot during the bridge discussion and the funding gaps was that WashDOT was not going to approve our design if we had a gap, but now that they aren't responsible for the designing, does that change how WashDOT approves how we spend the money for this project? Do you see what I'm saying?
Can we go back to 12 by 8?
Well, I'm just saying, because like,
Um,
one idea was
Yeah.
let's start spending some money and construct it now. And like the money will just appear. But like maybe it will because there's all kinds of grants that come out later, right? Because that's I think something that you had brought up, right, Jeff?
Right. If we
And
can, but no, I think, Bill, you're bringing up a good point, which is as they start to talk, there's probably some negotiations that could happen on what
Right.
we,
Okay.
legal negotiations and just general negotiations of like, okay, if we're willing to accept this change the WashDOT's proposing without doing X, Y, and Z in return, will you agree to basically?
Well, that's not our.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know how the conversation, right now, it's really trying to figure out how the structural design is gonna get delivered.
Okay.
And really, we're focused on that, and if WashDOT will, reverse their decision and design, we already knew there was gonna be extra costs, like they have a $300,000 contract right now, but we know it's gonna be 6 or 7 for them to do what they need to do. So I think we need to focus on who's gonna deliver the work, and then once we figure out who's gonna deliver the work, then we can talk about cost stuff.
So-
My other question time brought up was, we have the 2021 contract, it's 300,000 and change. When we went through everything in April, we said yes to WashDOT's request of like an extra 300 to bring it up to 600 total.
So we haven't
we put in
executed
the
that
budget.
yet.
Right, okay, so there's been no contract modification
No.
with that extra amount, okay.
Not yet.
And then one final question: do you think that cookies would help with this?
It helped me.
Should I?
Yeah.
WashDOT like cookies.
Little warning.
I mean, all right, so we're gonna put this on consent and then
Mayor or something.
are we still
We're
asking
working on the
questions?
staff level of stuff.
I'm gonna go ahead and, guys, you're on consent, so.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you very much.
And we're gonna take a break. I will call us back to order at 6:50.
Children.
Children are
And Helen,
lovely.
a totally fine parent.
Yes, he's totally fine.
And I call the meeting back to order. Wait a minute. Where are you going, Michael? Okay, we've got our quorum. Okay, good. Your
There's the
ears are all
rest of
here.
our
That's
quorum.
fantastic. Okay, so friends, colleagues.
Mhm.
You know, I did kind of slip into that. Okay, friends. Oh,
That's
no,
okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You're we would get a lot more done more efficiently if we were Quakers. Come on, let's be real.
We would?
Oh, I think so. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. You guys, I just want to move into housing equity, number 7. And what we're doing is we're going, yeah, no problem. And, staff was kind enough to send us notes. I'm not gonna go back in time and ask for any kind of update to the stuff we've already discussed. We're just gonna move forward and talk about, I believe, let me look, she sent it. Yeah, let me go back. Action, I'm looking up action steps in the search bar. And we got it on Monday. Yes. Well, whew,
I
okay.
got something on the 10th.
Who's it from?
Principles and
What's it from?
procedures.
This is,
That's okay. I found it.
What's the subject?
Okay.
draft action steps update.
My deleted folder. Okay.
Yeah, I see how you are. Okay, so attached is a Word document. And
Looking for it.
do we not all have this printout that I have in front of me?
I do not.
don't
I do not.
Okay, and we can't. Okay, well, that would have been helpful for everybody. I apologize. I thought that everybody was gonna get one, and I don't think that I made that clear.
Maybe it's in our box.
Maybe it's probably not.
Do you have one?
I have one.
Surely there's a copier we have old school thing.
There is a copy. Does it require a number, any kind of code to log in? Don't have, nobody has. Mayor?
Do you have the email, Jennifer?
Yeah, I have the
Why don't you
email.
just send it to us right now?
You don't have
I
it?
don't have
It's not in my
it.
deleted items.
Okay, I apologize. That's
Well,
interesting.
It's probably my fault.
No, it looks like it was sent to me. Okay, I'm gonna do this individually. Okay, don't reply to this email as it will be a breach of quorum, y'all.
It's polite to say thanks, got it.
Jeez.
I saw you look over and I'm like, are you for real?
Okay. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who am I missing? Eric. Okay. Apologies. Thank you. And is it not in our packet?
No,
Oh, God.
no.
Okay, all right.
You email it to us?
I just did it.
That should, yeah.
Okay.
You should, if you refresh, you should have it. I
I'm
did
not
it
getting
individually. Boom, I heard it.
Email on this.
Heard a little,
Where's my email? Hasn't loaded since July 17th.
oh, you need to update your password, madam.
Yeah.
All right. I'm
It's going
gonna,
really well, isn't it? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
We were really ready for this.
I have
Good
no
thing we took a
on
break.
me, y'all. I apologize. And as a matter of fact, Anna, can you hold the fort down for a minute while I grab a drink?
Absolutely.
Okay, so y'all are getting your emails up?
Okay, I'd like to now open up discussion about the, I'd like to now open up discussion about the revised action step for the council's goals and priorities. Picking up where we left off from the July 10th meeting session at number 7 under housing equity. And the president having returned to the room.
Well, I was just
return
waiting
the
for
baton
everybody
to
to
you.
pull it up on their email. And let's just take a couple of minutes to kind of take a look at it. I don't want to go, and we don't need, it's not gonna take a long time to read through it because there's some blue notes. And under housing equity, it shows start with number 7. That's where we left off from our, what is it, July 10th? Is that when we met?
Yeah, that's
I believe
correct.
we're still from July 10th. So, council, before we get crack-a-lacking on talking about these things, do you want to set an expectation for how much time we're going to spend on this?
No.
No,
I would love to set an expectation with y'all because I don't want to be here till 10 o'clock unless you really want to barrel through and talk about every single thing. And we might be able to get it done if we are really efficient with our time and our comments.
It's not even 7.
The items in blue we've already done. We're more than halfway through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's knock it out.
All right, let's knock it out. I like that. Okay. So we have 3 items underneath support creative humane housing solutions for a wide variety of housing types. I am gonna just skip really quick down to number 3 because that has a specific committee assigned to it. Michael, do you have this at all? Has review income levels for 12 and 20-year multifamily tax exemption come up at all? Okay.
when has 12 and 20-year been approved?
The 20-year, year and a half ago.
And you approved 12-year instead of 8?
12 is already on the books.
We didn't do any
We
changes.
added the 20 because that came down through state law.
I thought it was, we were allowed to, not that we had to.
We were allowed to, so we chose it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did choose it
It was
before
a-
I got here?
It was at the recommendation of DCD. And we made no changes to 8, although we had a lengthy discussion about it. So finance, with this being on the goals and priorities, are you cool with putting this on an agenda at some point in time for review? It doesn't say any action, it says review.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So finance will put that on the agenda. Like it says review income levels for 12 and 20-year multifamily tax exemption. So the hope is that you'll come back to us. Do we want to set a time limit on this? I mean, it's a 2 years, but
One thing is
Action steps.
moving into budget season.
so may not have something concrete on that. Sure.
Okay. So it may not come up this year, maybe next year. And we may have a different finance chair, right? We don't know. So moving into budget season, it's not I don't know, council, how do you feel about that? Because then after budget season, we don't have any more finance
No.
meetings.
Just,
I'll let you.
Jane and I will get coffee. We'll solve the world's problems.
Right.
I think that,
What's next?
in the absence of impact fees, which is kind of crippling for us, that having these properties that are contributing no property tax for so long a time to a population that's largely market value because the way affordable housing standards are set at 60 and 60 and 80% of AMI, that is basically market rate. So we are creating market rate housing for the most part that contributes nothing to us for up to 20 years while services are being demanded.
But tonight isn't the night to argue that. That tonight's the night to figure out how do we move forward with that review. So is it finance and do we want to put?
We've already assigned it to finance
Yeah,
as a group by consensus.
but you're asking if there should be a time.
I'm suggesting that it be prioritized, like not January or February, that it happen in the
Yeah,
next couple of
yeah.
months.
Yeah.
So
I agree that
So we're-
finance is the right place.
this item is only looking at the qualifying
Mhm.
income levels for people who can take advantage of the
Sliding scale,
the
So supposedly.
when people provide affordable housing, who can get it?
And specifically, we've had this discussion before about changing the income levels to, what is it, 80 versus 60 AMI?
I think it was 40%.
40?
Yeah. 40%.
From 40 to, from 60 to 40, because that's more reflective of the Bremerton
Yeah.
we're looped into.
Because AMI right now is 1025.
So that, I mean, and we've had this discussion, but,
But we had a different council when we had this discussion.
But at the retreat this year, we just said we want to see the data. So my recollection of
Right.
this action item is, what is the current data on the projects that have used it? And that would help us.
What do you mean by data?
oh, wait, you're saying something totally different than my understanding. So review income levels for 12 and 20-year multifamily tax exemption. We're not talking about the specific income levels. We're talking about the actual data of which housing projects have used MFTE.
So we have the low and the median, there's low and the median income set aside, it's like 10% for full,
Okay.
40% affordable housing. And those, yeah, as we're saying, are set at some number value of median income. And so, yeah, we're talking about, can we move those? But that's dependent on the data. Basically, what would be the impact of that, right? Because the discussion that the council had 3 years ago was, will this still pencil out? Would anybody use it if we move it? If we move it too much, no one uses it. And so,
I also assume this is for new projects, right? We can't.
right, we can't go back to the old
Rules.
ones, but yeah. That required data on the existing projects and their,
I think
there's
that's
the cost of building versus the offset.
That's a lot.
That's an audit.
Audit?
Eric,
Basically asking
we're
for an
gonna go-
audit of,
So I don't believe there's I understand some people, first of all, finance is a great place for it because you have someone I know that council members, I believe her direction and she knows my direction. So we'll go ahead. So it's a great place. And then Michael will be the auditor.
he'll be the middle
So-
child.
That's a great place for the discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as whether it should be next month, I think we have to have a big picture of what the capital market looks like right now with high interest rates. It doesn't matter what you do. If you think you have the greatest solution in the world, nothing's gonna be built right now in this interest environment. It can wait until June. It's okay.
I think it's important that council get updated on the amount of units that have been built under this and how many are supposedly affordable under this
And that's fine.
before we move.
If finance has capacity to do that this year, that's fine. Michael can make that request. Because I guarantee you, the numbers won't change in January because there's no new projects. So it's okay if you want that information now, it's fine.
Do we want to ask DCD to provide that information for us?
They have it.
Can they just email it and then
Yeah.
finance can
I-
take it in committee
Why,
and
look,
present it
here's
here?
the
Or-
LCD.
So the way I look at this though is
Let's not call them to the carpet.
They have a chart.
a little bit on this, like, why does that matter? If it's about people in our community needing appropriately priced, affordable housing, it doesn't matter what the numbers of what's going on out there, and plus we're not gonna change those. Plus, a lot of those properties weren't bringing in hardly any money. And you have to go back to a time that nothing was being built in Bremerton. So to me, this program is getting stuff built. If they choose to do it, and there's, so that's why, anyway, I won't go any further with that. But to me, that's kind of in the past. If it's about the people and how much they're paying, that's a whole, I don't know why we would need to know how much we could get from this new thing when it, because it doesn't matter. And when that program rolls off, it's gonna be a whole different level anyways, and it's sort of speculation on value.
Let's get a temperature check on this, okay? I mean, I know, counselors, if you'd like to see this reviewed prior to budget season.
Yes.
What's being reviewed?
The
What's the
entire,
reasoning?
No,
No.
it's being reviewed.
I'm not sure that there's consensus to have it done this year.
Well, can I give some reasons why I think it's important that it get
You're
done?
welcome to at finance. That seems like a more appropriate place.
That's tautological.
No,
Can
it's
I
not.
just say, because I'm reading the
No, it's not,
temperature
because
of the
I'm the
room.
one saying, because we're getting ready to launch into season, we might have a hard time fitting on there. But obviously. But if there's a good. Yeah, so we'll forward. We will talk about this at the next finance meeting. But we'll
Okay.
talk about fitting it into the schedule or not at the next. So we'll be on
Okay.
next finance. But again, the goal that I'm looking at here is about
Increasing
or lowering the prices of the affordable units.
So
But I'm
Jane,
hearing all kinds of different things.
Forget it.
so Michael's gonna bring it up at the next finance meeting.
Great.
Cool.
I don't know why you're upset.
That's what you wanted.
Because this affects our whole budget.
So he's bringing it
We-
up
we
before
weren't-
budget season.
No.
How?
How does it affect our whole budget? Because not one other community in Kitsap has this, and they're still building in those communities. Our police and fire calls are up more than 30%,
I understand.
and we need,
What I'm saying is, we could. The units that are currently putting a drain on resources, we can't change any of that. That's
but we
already
should know
done.
how many there are, and I don't think there's even 100 out of all this money that we have given away. Less than 100 of them are for so-called affordable, because they're not affordable. They're market rate.
I think when we're gonna be throwing stuff like that out at a public meeting, I do think it's understandable to ask for some data. Like
Right.
just some not personal data, like on the earnings of anybody. I've seen those sheets, and they are low income people. However, to give us some data on how many of these have been, built, how many to take advantage of, the pockets of them, what's the impact? How much would we have gotten if we hadn't done, I don't know if we even need to do that,
I
but
mean,
some kind of
Beth did some-
comparison.
penciling a while
Yeah.
back too. Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of penciling in. I mean, data, that's been thrown around
There is
and there's
an-
different interpretations of it, but,
We've got
back of the
local
envelope, is that what you
development
called it?
Coming up,
Yeah.
we've got,
back of the envelope penciling.
Yeah.
as I look at Harrison and that sub area, we're gonna be looking at more multifamily,
Mhm.
Housing in there as well as up along the corridor. So yeah, it's, I think that the motivation, I think the data is good to have as we move forward, because then maybe we can wrestle with this and finally come to a conclusion, because otherwise things are being said, which I really am not sure of. I mean, when we throw out things like very few low-income people are able to take advantage of it.
But they
that's
have a
brought out in
chart.
public.
They have a chart that shows how many of those units that aren't paying taxes are actually deemed for
BCC does?
affordable. Yes, they
Oh.
have it, and that's why.
And you've seen it. And
Yes,
so,
I have seen it.
yes, I know you have. And so you're gonna talk about it at the next finance meeting. You're gonna have it on the agenda. It sounds important enough to your colleagues on the committee. All right, so then that's where it's gonna go first. Fine. Or did you say fun?
It'll
Fun.
be fun.
Okay. And then at your committee report, we'll hear a little bit about it. Okay, so that one is gonna be tackled. It's gonna be, it's gonna be in progress at the next meeting. So let's go back to 7I. I said 7.3, but it's actually 7I, 7II. I guess is that 1, 2, 3? 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. Okay, it's Roman numerals, but support community partners in development of low barrier shelter and low income housing. We are definitely in progress with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we have are we assigning somebody to?
This is
attend
whole,
their-
this
their
is whole
meeting?
council. It's support community partners in development of low barrier or hybrid shelter and low income housing. We're meeting that regularly. That has been met. We could easily put a checkbox next to it, but we're gonna continue this goal until it's finished, right?
I think we had talked to council about having somebody,
Okay.
attend those meetings.
The Monday meetings.
The Monday
I think
meetings.
I saw Jill Stanton coming up to you after that meeting.
Yeah.
Did
I'll
she
volunteer to attend
request? I saw.
And you guys
Jill
had
I
a-
think Jeff's a good person.
But you
Yeah.
also have like kind of a de facto ad hoc with,
Yeah.
right? So who's just for accountability? Who's your housing ad hoc? Is it the three of, who's?
We
was the
were.
three
it
of-
was
The three of you,
on
okay.
that end.
So you have a couple of alternates. So
Yeah.
between the three of you, you'll be going to those Monday meetings.
Mhm.
And when it comes to regional or other
And-
committee share outs, we'd love to hear that on
Yeah.
study session.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
Just
perfect.
keeping our thumb on the pulse.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is the right place to do it because I know we're getting a call out on the city-owned parcels on the 28th. Is that correct? But the development of low-income housing, because we've just wrapped the hybrid shelter and supporting it and being there. But the other part of 7I is support community partners in development of low-income housing. And that, I don't see anybody working on.
Have they come to us? I mean, that's what, if
Right.
a community partner wants a piece of public property,
Mhm.
he or she contacts the city, right?
Well, the Peninsula Services Organization has reached out to me, remember at a previous, yeah,
Administration,
And
right?
reach out.
Yeah.
so they need to reach out to the mayor. Okay. Because, and the reason they reached out to me was that at that last council meeting, it was agreed that we'd move forward on two tracks. One was moving towards a property broker and doing everything proper and going through Melinda. And the other was that I would continue these informal contacts. So I've been continuing them.
I
What is
don't
that?
remember that being,
I'm trying to,
I think I remember it
it was
was,
the last, it was on July 10th.
it didn't, from what I remember, it didn't hurt it.
Yeah.
You talk to folks
Yeah.
as long as you were never speaking on behalf of the city, obviously.
Oh,
You're
gosh, no.
directing them to,
okay.
No.
directing the mayor, yeah.
No, I did not fall off a turnip.
No, exactly, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds great, but
Thank you.
developing of low-income housing, and this sort of bleeds into 7II or 7.2.
We are not developing low-income housing. We are supporting community partners in developing.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think one way we could do that would be by zoning, by making changes to the zoning, which is something that the comp plan is doing.
Okay.
And that this might be something,
So approving the comp plan with the zoning changes that that's kind of state, it's a state thing too, that focuses more multifamily zoning.
more
Higher
multifamily zoning, and also a trend that's happening all over the country and all over the world, which is for denser housing. And instead of everybody having their own yard, they would have like communal areas where people would get together. That might be something we might incentivize.
So this,
Oh, advice.
can I just say, I just want to reiterate, I'm gonna call on you, Garrett, but we're supporting community partners in the development of low-income housing.
Okay.
So these community partners, if there are community partners that come forward with these ideas, then we would.
We
support.
refer them to the mayor, and that's how we support them.
And also, if anybody comes to DCD with these, right? It's not even just going to the mayor, but they could be putting in permits with DCD in the same way that our housing partners did for the change in zoning for the temporary encampments.
Either Right Start,
Mhm.
community health service, workforce housing, all of those are more below income housing projects, more on the way. It's from zoning
A
that
plethora.
we've done.
Yeah.
We've approved the zoning recommendations through commission and administration.
Good.
We're still developing.
Keep throwing these ideas out with community partners and see if we can get somebody to snag up some of these great ideas too.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, will do.
All right, so we know we're moving forward on that. We have a lot of evidence of ways that we supported community partners in low income and development of low income housing, as mentioned by the mayor. We have, I'm just off the top of my head. I mean, there's several other projects besides our low barrier shelter, right? The BHA, the St. Vincent. There's several projects that we've supported, and we're going to continue to support them. I have no doubt. 7.2, continue to support creation of missing middle housing. And I do think that wraps into
In the comp plan.
it's in the comp plan, exactly. Is there any other
ADU streamlining through care.
ADUs?
Proceeding on plan,
okay, ADUs?
How's that coming along?
That's the last update, well, been
It's been a couple
a month
months.
and a half since the last
Yeah.
meeting. So basically, I think that was the last left where all the cities in the county, everyone on KRCC seemed to be on board with it. And I believe Mayor, they're working on a basically proposal to bring forward. And they were also talking to KBA and get everyone on board.
Port Angeles already has it and has had it for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So what,
We wanted to get it.
Countywide.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you were someone looking to build one, look, you're in city limits, out of city limits, just follow that.
and I think the county kind of spearheaded it so that the cities didn't have to recreate the wheel. They could just kind of follow suit with whatever the county was doing with their program. And so it's, do you have them? Do you have these plans? Is that already part of the package at BCD yet? What's the timeline on that? Do you know what we're talking about?
They're hiring a
Of course he does.
Meeting the other day, we called that they were releasing an RFP for
Okay.
a consultant to put together the ADU package, but the intent is that it would work in every jurisdiction.
Okay. So the RFP is going out. Okay.
Multiple levers.
Yeah.
I mean, this city took the lead in the region on ADU policy a while ago, so that's more into do something, the county needs to do something, of course, Paul stepped up and trying to be the organizer and convener. Sorry.
Not at all. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so now we're on missing middle. So the holdup with the ADUs in just anecdotally hanging out is the requirement that there be 2 off-street parking spaces. Like in my house, for the main house, like my house has no off-street parking. Except,
Are you talking about ADUs in general, or this? Are you shifting to a different topic of ADUs in general
I'm
requiring
talking about
parking?
how to incentivize ADUs and supporting the creation of missing middle housing like ADUs. And one way would be to reduce or remove the off-street
But I
parking
think-
requirement.
Okay.
Tonight's conversation is the way in which we're gonna move this forward.
Well, I
not
want to pause for a moment because I understand where Anna's coming from. Continue to support creation of missing middle housing. It would be a benefit if we had a policy change, is what she's saying. It's something that we could think about.
Yes.
So, if you had some, currently it's 2 off-street parking, no.
For the main house.
Well, ADUs, because it's
The first
attached to the
ADU,
primary
no
home.
parking requirement. The second ADU is 1.
Right, but
Right,
it's the requirement for the main
Can we
house.
can we just defer to DCD to give us a skinny?
So if you have a single family home that has a park, proposing the ADU, you can provide 2 off-street parking spaces for that existing single family resident.
Right.
But no additional parking
Right.
for the ADU.
Right.
You can add a 3rd ADU and then have 1 parking space required. So total for 3 residential units, we will have 3 parking spaces.
Right.
But you
Which
have
makes-
to have 2.
You just to build the first one, you would have to have 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's,
My apologies. Yep.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying, is that if we could
Okay.
reduce or remove that, or,
If we could have a discussion on it, I think that's worthwhile.
Planning commission though?
That's planning
The
commission.
ADU revision to the City.Council comprehensive plan update, that's something that we have in our work plan
Okay.
to address ADU, the compliance state, there's small tweaks that we need to make there, so it will be coming to the city.
Okay.
do you know when?
No, we're working on the zoning code right now. While we're working through the zoning code, while we're working through the comprehensive plan, we're gonna start having in zoning code amendments to the planning commission commission will process housing and the environment. So, those will come to the council probably 2025. So,
Is that when parking requirements as a whole are gonna come to us, not until 2025?
I'm inclined to defer to DCD on all these policy changes, council.
Well, and planning commission,
Planning, yeah.
Planning
especially
commission.
with the new members.
Working on it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I think we have nailed 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. So now we're gonna go to parks and environmental stewardship, number 8, develop policies that encourage environmental stewardship. What are some policies that would?
Sorry, I had something in my throat.
Oh, okay, that was,
Good question.
yeah.
No question.
Develop policies that encourage environmental stewardship. Can we talk about what we have done in this arena? Because I feel like there are some policies that we have enacted that have encouraged environmental stewardship.
Like,
are
I
they?
know if
What are they?
BCC isn't looking at it. why
The
should
lights
we?
go off during meetings.
I'm not
Had
aware of
discussions.
anything that,
There's no air conditioning. After strike.
So what policies,
Not in the bathroom, they go off too, by the way.
what policies have we created,
I mean,
amended that
okay.
encourage environmental stewardship?
well, I think to the level that you're looking for, possibly not. Have we?
let's ask Garrett. Cause I'm not aware of any changes in the past.
Updated critical care ordinance, program, again, there's best science. So that was by the Department of Ecology, Fish and Wildlife, Palm Tribe. Believe in 20 to get a major update for climate change for transportation. So,
2029? We'll be dead by then.
Just letting you know.
Yeah, I know.
But then we'll be able to sleep when we're dead.
What have we
Yeah.
done?
There's a number
Oh, no,
of
policies that we have.
This time around, regarding urban tree canopy and tree retention. So we'll be working on that's already added to the goals and policies and council's review. And then that's important what that looks like.
So I have a question about goals versus requirements. Are the updates that you're proposing going to be actual requirements or just goals for environmental stewardship?
The comprehensive plan, it's the goals of the city that any other department's plans should be based on, not just, but the zoning requirements zoning changes that we will inevitably bring to the planning commission, city council will take those amended goals and policies into consideration.
Okay.
Well, I've got we have a number of policies on the books that encourage environmental stewardship, like the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan, which calls for focus on native and drought-tolerant trees. One reason for that, one very specific finance-related reason, is that drought-tolerant trees and shrubs and flowers and grasses require less water. Look at the price that we're paying for the irrigation for Lulu Haddon. But if you look at the planting plan for Lulu Haddon, there are a number of not native, not drought tolerant trees. So, actually enforcing the policies that we have.
We can't exactly
Exactly.
enforce policy.
We can't enforce any of them.
Okay.
So,
Develop policies that encourage environmental stewardship. So, is there a way to offer carrots with policy changes that would encourage environmental stewardship?
I would think that we shouldn't have to offer carrots to staff to follow.
Apples?
Cookie.
cookies. You shouldn't have to, but people, you catch more flies with honey. I mean, like imploring people to do something as opposed to, I mean, there's so many rules on the book.
It's different when you're trying to encourage a developer to put water bags around their street trees so they don't die the first year. That's something you can encourage. But when we have policies for like using drought tolerant plants in areas that we maintain, our staff maintains, I don't think we have to give them any more carrots.
I would like to throw something out there that you may not be, does somebody need to, okay. Y'all might not be thinking of it in this way, but we have had a few things that we've been able to encourage. And I don't know if this may not be the environmental stewardship that you're thinking of, Anna, okay? But there's ways that we have positively impacted the general environment of the city. We were able to have a restroom reimbursed, and that took away a lot of waste from our streets, which took away a lot of waste from sewer, from water runoff from our communities. Is that not environmental stewardship?
That was a great 3 months.
Right. So I'm just trying to think, this is something that the citizens have called for, that we also support. Is this not environmental stewardship to continue with the bathroom conversation? I know, it's a specific ask from the citizens. That's where I'm going with this.
Are you saying
They want a bathroom.
portable toilets in the downtown area? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, is that not environmental stewardship,
Yes, it is. I agree.
Eric?
That would be great.
There's a couple of council members that seem to be particularly interested. I suggest an ad hoc committee with whoever, no more than 3, that want to carry this forward and come up with some ideas. Go ahead and do it.
Could we call it the Sustainability Ad Hoc Committee?
You. So can we have an ad hoc of Jane, Anna, and Jennifer?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Since I hate the environment, I'll be a good third. I don't hate the environment.
Just the one.
Thank you,
we have
Eric, for the
right now.
wonderful. Number 9, continue to support kids. I love this environment. You guys are the best. You guys are great. I mean, for the most part. Especially those of you who bring sliders to the meeting.
For number 9, I've
Number
been
9.
down there to watch them distribute the flocculant.
We've met this one.
And I've also just went down there this week to watch them. It's like a Mississippi riverboat, the paddle wheeler that harvests the aquatic vegetation.
Very cool.
And then the piled up heaps of it go to Pendergast.
So
become compost.
So we are already supporting. Number 9 is a big old checkbox.
Yep.
Because we're continuing to support this program, financially with approval of yeah, we're good. Check. Support sustainable funding for parks operations. Don't laugh out loud, Jane. But what are we doing?
Are we throwing out ideas of how to do this?
No, who's responsible? And so
Who's
my
responsible?
suggestion, well, I have an idea. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, I took it away.
No, that's fine.
All right, so my suggestion is
Ad hoc.
that not ad hoc.
Okay.
No, goodness gracious, I might get stuck on one. But don't worry. I'm gonna keep
You're
it ad
gonna be
hoc
on
in the
this one.
pocket. So I've been known to come up with ideas during budget time. I think that's the area when we get into the budget discussions, that if someone wants to come up with some ideas, that's where we have that discussion. And if it sticks, then we met that goal. If it doesn't, next budget item. That's basically, or if someone is in the finance committee and wants to bring it up in the finance committee and check out the plausibility before it goes before the full council, so it'll be one of 3 of us. So in effect, in ad hoc, but you can either have the council as a whole during budget, or you can do it for finance. I prefer council full because then we have 7 people with great original ideas. versus 3.
I want to just say, I think that some of us have a similar idea this year that we want to explore. And it's already been talked about, right? We were all there present for certain presentations. And so to Eric's point, let's have that conversation budget season. Okay, we're going to circle back to that. All right. And so if it's okay, I'm going to move on into public safety and support. Increased public safety funding.
That's on the Public Safety Committee agenda as a standing item. We're gonna have Mike Riley come in and talk about long-term planning for increased fire and police for all the development.
And we also, supported the
Levy.
Yeah, the levy.
Yeah.
Revisited item as well, part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we also
Mhm.
increased, we took the recommendation at mid-year budget adjustment for increasing public safety funding for their FTEs, right? So we are working on that. Couple of, check boxes there. Number 12, monitor impact of current public safety policies and programs. You're doing that.
Well,
Right.
I mean, this is up to the departments, they, meaning public safety and fire.
Police and fire, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think there is concern about the impact, of some of the policies and so forth. And we'll continue to ask for data on public safety. We get verbal reports, but it would sure be nice to have a dashboard or something.
Well,
Like it is for all departments. Just how are we doing? One pager.
can I throw out though, there are some public things out there. I mean,
definitely.
there's like the clearinghouse of all the
Well, but
police interactions that's available.
so
but
I
also-
think monitor impact is different because
Fair.
it
So I'm thinking of Common Streets presentation.
definitely,
Okay, that's a program that's come.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Yeah.
Okay. So public safety is continuing to do that. It's in progress, but there's some ways that you're
well,
doing it now.
it'll just be continuing. I think it's a continuing conversation that we have.
Are you including in that continuing conversation the inability of the city to pursue to implement the chronic nuisance property ordinance in the absence of citations?
Well, I think that we're very mindful, as the chief always reminds us, that they're prioritizing a much different level kind of interaction with their calls. And is it code enforcement? Is it violation of an ordinance? I think it's on a whole continuum, but no, we aren't doing that specifically.
The reason, I'm sorry, please go on. The reason that I ask is that the police are going multiple times to houses that have noise complaints and asking for compliance, as the chief said last time he spoke, that their focus is on compliance. So the time spent to say, please turn it down, and then to come back and say, please turn it down, could be reduced if on the 5th or 17th in many of these places iteration that a citation were issued, and that would actually go further towards enforcing the chronic nuisance property ordinance. In my district, because I'm kind of district focused, but there have been 2 places that have become hellacious, one burned to the ground
So
in the absence of any citations at earlier stages.
I'm going to pause you because this is not actually the purpose of, when we're doing these, what we're really doing is talking about which group has the accountability for this item. I think that I want to make sure that as we're finishing up these items that we're honing in on who has the responsibility for them rather than the new ideas.
But to support Anna, she should be able to, out of the public meeting, she should be able to call up Denise, if it's only 2 people. Denise as the chair, saying, hey, I have this concern, could you consider bringing it up?
And so I guess, yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great.
This is over the noise. Any other,
Can you
because
just-
you know how
can they-
this is gonna go.
Can they just,
Why don't we just lump them all in at the same time?
I will.
we're gonna move forward to, so, can y'all just, I got about 17 of them. I'm gonna give them to you on Post-it notes. Each one on a different Post-it note. Okay, so get a hold of Denise because she's the
Yeah.
chair.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll do
I'll do the noise ordinance one.
And,
I'll ask for impact.
Well, there's a couple,
So
so
that's the only thing we're in here for. Is impact.
monitor impact of current
Okay.
public safety
disorderly
policies and
conduct,
programs,
trespass.
the impact of them. Okay, transportation and multimodal
So
support.
maybe during public safety briefing, it could be, you could get back to us. That would be great.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Increase residential street maintenance funding.
Public Works Committee.
I mean, we do that.
We have an item, I think, coming up to talk pre-budget.
Well, I think it got thrown out of us talking about it as the whole. I'm not sure what Jennifer's resolution was on that when I brought up an idea of how to get moving on.
You're the chair of Public Works. So you're gonna bring it up at your Public Works meeting.
Well, they're all for it.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
increase it.
No, but be careful. As council members, you may be all for it, but you may be surprised what your staff and public
Yeah.
works says, what they would or would not do with the money.
That was what Gunnar said. He said operations would be crazy about increasing those.
I
six
talked to Tom
programmatic-
about it and he.
Okay,
So then-
that's great, but so
Go ahead, Eric.
I was gonna say, just work it out through public works and come with recommendation and bring it before council.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the way to do it.
I mean,
That way it's cleaner that way.
No, everybody could probably use more funding in their budget, but it's identifying where to get it from, where to tag it from, like we've done in the past. I'd be interested because for years, when I was addressing this ditch, I was told, I don't want to paraphrase, but basically it's like, yeah, you put more money in there, I'm not gonna be able to do more work. That's what I've heard before, but right?
It's like when we hear about them needing a whole team, like a whole street crew or a whole fire engine or
It's not.
a whole
Incremental
zone
funding.
for police.
It's like a step up. You need to
Yeah.
increase it by this amount in order to go this way.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'd be interested to see how the talks progress. That's great.
It's, so much of it is contracted out, all that chip seal.
Well, everything that we could do in-house is cheaper.
We'll keep talking
Right.
to Public Works with our experts who are close
Yeah.
by.
Okay.
Okay. Last but not least, establish ranking system for scoring transportation projects in collaboration with Public Works.
Yeah.
That is ongoing. And it's something that,
Nice.
staff is working on different formats to present to us of how they would like to start ranking projects with.
Okay.
So that's an ongoing thing.
All right, well, we did it.
Well, it kind of goes.
Number 15.
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, almost, almost.
This is what I
We're
get for
going
using
downhill.
HC and HC instead of a digital copy. All right, prioritize multimodal connectivity. Public Works, y'all on it?
I think mostly coming through the active transportation plan.
Yeah, we're waiting to see that.
Yeah.
And that would
I
be
think so.
numbers 2, 3, and 4. Oh, it says 5, but that should be a 4. Oh, we don't have
No, that's.
That is a 4 in Roman numerals.
Oh,
getting country
she's talking about the subhead.
the subhead.
Oh, okay.
That needs to be an IB.
I'd like to add about number 4 is how can we prioritize database traffic calming policy, prioritizing pedestrians and cyclists when we haven't got data? The Bremerton Police Department has been telling me for months now that they no longer have data on where hotspots for collisions, that their new software does not allow that. So is that something that should be referred to public safety to get the data?
I think it's data related to, traffic calming policy, like larger data, like what are the proven
Close
methods
that.
of traffic calming? Isn't that what it means?
I think it was like,
Or
where
specific-
do we need traffic calming?
So this was, we already started on a new traffic, the old speed hump policy, which is currently, I know staff is working on reforming into the traffic calming policy.
Right.
Yeah,
But
so it was a
to
larger,
figure out where we need to calm traffic, we need to know where traffic is raucous.
that's
but-
not how I read it. No. It's on a large.
How do you do that?
You get the heat maps, and the heat maps show you where there are the highest numbers of collisions. That's what
Collisions, but collisions really aren't what traffic calming's all about. I mean, that's part of it,
collisions,
but
speeding.
it's, yeah, well, we don't really have
This is an item.
ways that go out and do traffic anymore.
No.
Yeah, or maybe there's two now.
So, okay,
This is an item on public works. that
this is a public works item.
Yeah.
So Public Works,
Working on
is working on it.
Yeah.
The Warren Avenue Bridge, Public Works is working on it. Development of Jarstead Park to Kitsap Lake Trail.
It's on, part of it's on the tour tomorrow.
Yeah, we're waiting to hear
Yeah.
from Tammy.
Okay, so the one that's not under Public Works, but is as a whole, is the trail network through Bremerton. Are we working on that?
I think it's coming through active transportation plan,
Yeah.
comp plan element.
I feel good about it, but
Yeah.
All right.
Element 16.
Number 15, I believe, is done. So we are, I feel like we're done with this.
But
Yes,
instead of
sir.
saying council as a whole, you just say entire council. I never liked council.
Mental note, actually, actual no, you got that stuff, entire council. Oh, my God. Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. I know I have a script somewhere, but I don't really need it because next up is.
Here's where you knock it out.
You did, you were right.
Do you want it?
so, public safety, we had a good discussion about, and please, weigh in if I've forgotten anything. Firework calls, I believe we're down this year from
Well-
his initial data.
You guys, it's a little hard for us to hear. It's okay.
Like
Well, they,
80 some to 50 some.
they said they were down, but it's not really data that I believe because people have been told not to call.
Well, see, yeah, when we get into it, he said there were, I think it was 82 to 53. I mean, there were 82 calls last night and 53, but last year. But what Jamie's saying is correct. It was confusing at best, what people should do, whether they should call a non-emergency line or
They've always been
whatever.
encouraged not to call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to report fireworks. So if you're seeing a trend, the trend roughly is the same, but it's so out of whack that there's no real good data there anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
What data do we
He
have?
did
What
seem
time
to
span and
think-
what-
He did seem to think, though, that the lack of aerials did make a difference.
I don't know how they could think that. I mean, did you see what Lions Park looked like?
I'm right next, let me
Yeah.
tell you anecdotally, I'm right next to Lions Park. It hit for around July 4th, and I mean, that's right next to me.
Right.
It always looks a mess. It was so much less noisy. It was,
Okay.
it was a lot calmer than it was last year. You didn't see me out, I didn't have my pictures this year, that I did last year.
Well, we were watching from
I like that
across-
sign.
Across from Lions Park is where I live.
I know, it was not
There's
as
a lot of areas.
it was not as bad. I can 100% assert that it was not as bad as it was the previous year.
I mean, Mike
I don't-
Six had gone through some, a process, made some recommendations to council. We agreed with that. Let's give it a couple of years.
I didn't think in my
and see
neighborhood
what
it was bad either. I mean,
As bad,
you
right?
know,
I mean, still,
you definitely hear, what I don't like is like, all right, now it's bedtime, like it's dark, and like 1 a.m, there's still like rando
Yeah.
stuff.
on a week.
But I mean, there were times that in my own home, I felt I had a
Right.
shelter in place. Like, I didn't think it was.
It was not as bad to me this year as it was last year. That's just
It's just
anecdotal.
as long, though.
It's still going
That's
on.
my question, like, that's my burning
Mhm.
question is, were there any citations
No,
in the weeks before and after? Because,
From the
yeah,
bridge
like
blast. to-
Evergreen, I know people were shooting them off 2 weeks.
Sure.
Or 2 weeks
I mean,
after, right?
uh-huh.
So I'm
There's
just
definitely some of that.
To
curious,
me, it's
you know.
just like
You gotta
the,
catch them
this is
red-handed.
like people complaining about,
Safety chair, did they discuss, did they give any data on citation?
No, I don't believe there were any citations.
Is there some,
But again, who was gonna give those citations?
well, the
police?
parties, like, when they said that it
Or the
was
things going on
inferred
TV?
that it was too scary for a firefighter to talk to drunks shooting off fireworks, so they probably weren't gonna write citations. I mean, that was how the conversation went. So, I don't know. We have all these laws on the books that,
And I think we
don't-
each hear conversations differently. I felt reassured at public safety. The chief had his fire marshal come to us with recommendations. We voted on those recommendations. This was the first year. So far, I mean, this was, I mean, they didn't have a full accurate report on it.
Can I also just verify that, what happened last year was there was a big newspaper article that said all these different mayors we're telling their police departments not to respond to the call. I don't know that we had that newspaper article this year. Do you know what I'm talking about? No? Okay.
I believe you believe.
And I think the frustration sometimes is, we truly do have an excellent.
We
police
did,
and
we
fire
had.
Department, and they are stretched
Yeah.
beyond belief. And
Yep.
so, you know,
Yeah.
it is easy for them to face their chair who has domestic violence background and say, what do you want me to do? You
Mhm.
want me to go out on the 911 call for domestic violence, or do you want me to go over and write a
Yeah.
citation for fireworks? And
I think if-
that shouldn't be the question, right? It
Yeah.
shouldn't be, what is the system in which we can have both? And I don't know if it
Right,
includes
and
law
my
enforcement.
concern is it's not, in this one day you didn't write any citations, right? You're busy, I get it, but over a stretch of an entire month, if there's not one single citation, is there a policy
There's-
that it's not being enforced, or is it?
Well, yeah, maybe,
Yeah,
yes.
a lot of policies.
So there's a lot of policies that aren't being enforced.
Noise and fireworks.
Can I-
You know,
I'd like
the-
to,
The appearances.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing, and then I'm going to go to Eric and Michael to close us out, or then back to Denise to close us out. But I mean, also I'm worried about something that we hear a lot about is negative interactions of our emergency workers.
Mhm.
That it's just harm reduction to have less negative interactions, right?
Mhm.
For them, for
Mhm.
everybody.
Mhm.
Eric, Michael, Denise,
Mhm.
close us out.
So what's the point of an ordinance? It's kind of like a rental property, landlord registration. What's the point of having the ordinance if there is no chance of enforcement?
Right.
Take the ordinance off the books if you're not enforcing. By enforcing and publicizing enforcing of the firearms laws that are on the books, all it takes is a few examples
Mhm.
to get everybody compliance, or the needle to more compliant. Right now, you're only punishing the people that say that's against the law, I will not do it. It's the other ones that say, I don't care if it's a law, they just go ahead and do it. That's
Mhm.
not right.
Mhm.
So you have three different options, in my opinion. Stay, keep the status quo, just live with it the way it is. Hey, it's on the books, people follow it or they don't follow it. It's their ethical, moral and ethics that are gonna guide them to what decision to make. The second option is for the council to go ahead and put it on the ballot. Because if you ban it, then you can enforce it. And if you're gonna do that, it should be countywide to be, otherwise you're gonna have the same problem. You need to coordinate with all the other cities, Cambridge Island, is already there, but with the county. And you, quite honestly, you need to ban it. And the primary supplier over Squamish land will be put out of business. That's where all these big fireworks, majority of them are coming from, in my opinion. Can't say that with
concrete data, but that's where I believe a lot of the players.
So we need to ask ourselves, do we want to put the energy in?
Right, and then the third option is the citizens can do their own initiative. If this is that big of a problem, they can go do their own initiative, do the petition, and get it on the ballot.
Mhm.
Did they know that?
Sure, people know that. There's been
Yeah,
other
there's ballots
petitions.
all the
And I-
time.
But as a council, we've made it illegal all but, well, now I guess 48 hours a year, 2 days a year. We banned in-air sales in Bremerton. You don't get it in the county. But like we've done as much as we can do on the legislative side.
Without banning them outright.
Right.
Without putting it on the ballot.
Well, no, I mean, even what is a ballot going to do for Bremerton? We've already banned the in-air fireworks. It's illegal most of the year. I agree, countywide there's work to do, but
Well, so is there a way for, oh, I'm sorry, Michael.
So the current discussion changed my thoughts a little bit, but I mean, what I was hopeful on is that what we've already taken action on might kind of bring it down to a place where we could do some enforcement. After you mentioned your article, I thought, well, what if it was in the newspaper that like City of Bremerton was going to do enforcement outside of the windows, and with targeting city parks, and and then fair warning, it's already illegal, and then we could show up and write a couple citations, and kind of, we can post it, we can do every single thing possible, but also just like when you hear there's a DUI emphasis patrol, there's going to be a firework emphasis patrol on the 2nd of July or whatever. So,
But do we, in our role, no,
exactly.
it's the mayor and it's the chief that decides how that ordinance is going to be enforced.
Yep.
They've certainly heard from council, and for me, I guess it's, in the scheme of things, it's not high, I'm sorry, it's not high on my priority list when I'm public safety chair of departments that are handling the streets of Bremerton every day,
I get it. It's not the worst thing, but it's really annoying to a lot of people, especially they're still blowing things up in my neighborhood. It is the middle of August, and
Yeah,
well,
I hear you.
So yes, of course I want them to go after domestic violence calls first and DUIs second and whatever. And I get it's far down the road, but the thing is, why do we have any ordinances? Like, we don't do anything about people with loud noise or people who are walking down the street screaming and waking up their neighbors because they're having a mental health crisis. So, I mean, we could write a million ordinances, but if they're not going to be enforced, why bother?
Well, because it has had an effect.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing it was quieter.
Right.
It was Lions Park, So, it has had an effect. I tend to be a law-abiding citizen. I'm not going to go out and go against the law just because I don't think I'm going to be caught. I mean, there are people out there. I think sometimes we lose sight of that in Bremerton. We're talking so much about the people who are breaking the laws or, selling drugs or whatever. I think having an ordinance on the books says that your council, this is the way we would really like our society to behave, and then we bring in another, $50 million a year, maybe we can have a law enforcement
And again,
department that can enforce
we don't
it.
have the resources to enforce
Yeah.
it. We have the resources to make a few examples.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's,
And
Yeah.
if that's, I mean,
yeah.
that's something you
if we
said
think
about,
that's the best use of resources.
that's
so
something you
are-
said about landlord license as well, and I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's if we don't do something,
Yeah.
if we keep doing nothing,
Yeah.
then people go, wow, there's absolutely no
spreads and-
consequences.
Yeah.
All right, I'm all done, Michael.
Anarchy.
All right. So, Denise, do you want to finish?
Eric,
No, not
Eric.
really. I'll defer to Eric.
So I'm good with leaving it as is. And I do believe that you are correct. It's administrations. You set the table. Just recently passed a new ordinance. We need to see how it works. We need the administration to do their part in enforcing the ordinance on the books. Delineation of duties is clear. Having said that, I believe it's gonna take an example of it. I don't mean to be pulling at your hearts, but it's gonna take example of a little boy or girl
Mm-hmm.
blowing their hand off.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a crisis thing, which no one wants to see. And that's gonna change the future council to look at this again. And I wish it wouldn't take something.
Well, I'm sure there are situations that happen every year like that.
Oh, yeah, that we don't know of.
Yeah, I understand, but
and we've had good luck with rain for the past few years.
that's my,
January
first,
first, somebody
somebody
lost
lost
their
their
hand in man.
ban. Pump ground.
Do anything more?
what's that?
I mean, look at it again means ban the ground-based ones, extended. to-
Like Bainbridge, I don't believe they allow fireworks.
Nope.
But other cities, Tacoma does it. I'm not
Mhm,
saying
yeah.
do that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. Again, if you're gonna do that, it needs to be countywide.
Yeah.
JRCC
So-
is not involved in this, whatever, but really it needs to be,
Okay,
planning wide county. We're not gonna solve it.
so we have Denise, Michael, and Jane on public safety.
Mhm.
And when y'all talk about fireworks again,
Mhm.
talk about your recommendation for how we should proceed based on all of this feedback.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then we can have the discussion, but let's have it next year.
Mhm.
But ahead of the season. A policy change, if we had a policy change, how long would it take to go into effect if we made a policy? A year.
Yeah.
So even if we made it, that's how it always goes.
That's how we
So-
do what we did last year.
Right.
We've
So
already.
if we need another policy change, let's get it done prior to July 4th, so that it's good for the following year. Okay, does that sound good?
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you have anything else you wanted to add for your public safety committee, or was that basically
No,
it?
I know, actually, we didn't spend this long on fireworks.
Right.
Council spends this long on fireworks.
Yeah, we got less complaints this year
We did.
also,
We did.
so that's important to know.
We actually talked quite a bit about the encampment ordinance and how that would be rolled out and all that. We got a lot of reassurances from Captain.
And we all know the result of that,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Okay. Any other regional or other committee or board meetings that you've attended since the last study session, Jeff? I know it's summertime, so we have a lot less. I don't have any either because we're. Yeah, any other? Nope. Okay. Public Works tour is tomorrow. Everybody got their lunch orders in. Fry, Coughlin, Orlowski, Goodenow, Mockler. Eric, you're not going?
I've actually taken the tour.
Oh, yeah. Well, how many times
Probably a
now?
few times.
How many times have you been to
Actually, I
Goodenow?
won't say a few. I'm not sure, at least once,
I
maybe twice.
I really liked the water department. Anyway, I'm
The best
sorry.
part is going to the side.
Just saw Dan.
Everybody said I know it is, but also,
See if you can find a bear sign.
ooh,
Really
okay.
nice to see one of the clear cuts.
Do you know somebody's job is to go kill and feed it to the bear? They have like a feeding.
Those
station.
are bicycles
not
that
so
run
sure
over
that-
those bears.
I mean, bears do eat meat, but usually they eat berries and stuff like that. I don't know if that's.
Yeah.
true.
Hey,
Yeah.
They'll have your guys are
Fish.
freezing the meat and then throwing it
Well,
out for the
fish,
bears
but
to eat,
they're
right?
not like eating raccoons and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
That
This
sounds
is
like an-
taking a weird
Sounds like an
turn.
argument.
I'd love to. Okay. Hey, what am I,
I
chopped liver?
We're debating on what to do with roadkill. I love it. Love it.
Jane,
What?
are we good?
I'm good.
Cool.
Got something for good of the order.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
So yesterday I went to the Kitsap Conservation District's annual meeting and toured their farm. And if any of you get an opportunity to get out there and see how they are contributing thousands and thousands of pounds of food to food banks.
Wow.
and they're like scaling themselves. They go and they don't just like grow things. They go to the food banks and they say, what do your people want? And then they grow that. And they're creating a model for how to have a rural agricultural existence within Kitsap County. And I think for me, the thing that was most impressive was there are at least 2-story cisterns and wide in proportion that irrigate all of this land on drip irrigation, just from runoff from greenhouses and half of the house that was there through the end of July. So that's all. It was just wonderful, and there were bagpipes. So I'm just
Oh, man, I missed that. I love the bag.
I really do. So I'm just recommending it to anyone that you get like down in the dumps. It's a really hopeful place.
Washington Conservation, what?
It's the Kitsap Conservation District.
It's a conservation district.
It's just off of Buckland Hill. It's near Buckland Hill Road. It's off of Central Valley Road. So it's handy by.
Do they have bagpipes every day?
No, this was they were
Fab.
giving out awards, and the one person who was being awarded loved bagpipes, so somebody showed up with a bagpipe.
Excellent.
That's all. That's my good of the
Thank
order.
you. Okay, so we have one item. Oh, do you have something, Josh?
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, sure.
Here. I was wondering if we had an update when we're getting a full comp plan update, just for planning on district meetings and I thought.
Garrett, you awake?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Wake up.
No, you're good.
Don't worry about it.
I was just checking in on when we might get an update on the comp plan schedule.
Calendar.
Oh.
The council on 28th.
Okay.
So next study session.
We have other dates throughout the year scheduled.
Excellent.
Thank you. Much appreciated. That was easy.
And we'll discuss the status of the district digest.
Yeah, I'll let these spoken to the documents, particularly for the district about active transportation. All the information we need from Public Works have had it for it. We're just digitizing that, making it pretty.
Yay.
Mark and Phil doing a great job. Has everybody seen the graphs?
When were they updated?
Yeah, a month.
So hopefully.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just some small nuts and bolts to add in. But we plan on releasing those to the public, approximately concurrently with the draft environmental tax statement, so the council can use those for reference material for question.
Awesome. Thank you so
And my
much.
apologies, I missed an email with a comprehensive update. So, okay, fantastic. My apologies there.
All right. Thank you all for this wonderful discussion today. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, August 21st, starting at 5:30 p.m. Well, starting at 5 o'clock here, of course. 5:30 p.m. on the first floor meeting chambers at the Norm Dix Government Center. We'll have that one general business item, the rest on consent as far as we know. It'll be fun to celebrate that. Yes, Anna.
I'm so sorry. Really quick, go to the order that I forgot because I'm exhausted. How would council feel about starting council meetings earlier?
It's
Charter.
listed in the charter what time we
5
start.
p.m. is in the charter?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Bye.
Note to self, when we change the charter, let's take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
It'd be
People
way
have-
easier on
people have-
staff.
Yeah, but it's not easier. Well, I guess the public can watch
The
it.
public is invited to attend in person or remotely, but anyone wishing to speak via Zoom during public recognition must submit their request through the city clerk by calling 360-473-5323 at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Meeting is adjourned.